I've killed so many people, I've lost count. I can't come back from this. I'm a monster. I can feel the anger inside me. But I am still somewhere inside me more than that. Better than that.
So Ubisoft open world games these days tend to be quite maligned due to their sort of formulaic checklist heavy nature with the structure of their open worlds. But it wasn't too long ago that Ubisoft used to make well applauded games from audiences and critics alike. But these days, I feel that Ubisoft just seem to be in a bit of a sort of a attitude of just coasting along and making these games. And this is coming from someone who loves Ubisoft open world games. I absolutely love them. Assassin's Creed is one of my favorite franchises of all time. And the game I'm talking about today is also another favorite franchise of mine, Far Cry, which honestly, I don't feel Ubisoft has particularly ruined that franchise at all, Far Cry, yet. We had a couple of like spin-offs that people weren't fans of, but overall the main entries, I feel they're all pretty solid in terms of like the ones that Ubisoft have made. And going back to the classic of Far Cry 3, the topic of the video today, um, yeah, it still holds up really well considering it came out in 2012 originally on the Xbox 360 and PS3. Although I'm playing on the PS5, 60 FPS, that sort of thing. And bear in mind, if you play it on those systems natively on the 360 and PS3, you ain't getting 30 FPS most of the time because I feel that Far Cry visually and mechanically pushed those consoles to their absolute limits. I think a lot of games by that period were pushing those consoles to that period. But digressions aside, um, Far Cry 3, still a classic, and I'm going to be talking about it in this video a bit, going a bit of history first and all that sort of thing. Sorry about different background, just different filming sort of situation. I just wanted to change my setup of how I filmed this video today. And yeah, anyway, Far Cry 2 came out in 2008. It was Ubisoft Montreal's first stab at the Far Cry series because before that, the original Far Cry was made by Crytek, who went on to make Crysis, which the original Far Cry, a great game in its own right, but very rough around the edges. Where I feel that Crytek went on to do Crysis with the first one, it felt like that they made the game that they wanted to make basically with the original Crysis. Even the tropical setting is all familiar, except you're just a super soldier in a nano suit this time instead of a mercenary in a terrible Hawaiian shirt. But Ubisoft would retain the rights to Far Cry, and they would make their own console sort of versions of the first Far Cry, like very different versions on the Xbox, and then the Xbox 360 versions, which were like remasters of the old ones. It was a bit confusing with like Far Cry Instincts, then Far Cry Predator, then Far Cry Predator Instincts. It was like, okay, which one's which? So basically, if you want the best experience with those versions, get Predator Instincts. But they were great, good linear shooters, quite hard actually, because I bought it last year on 360 and I played through them and I was like, wow, this game's a lot harder than I realized. But it wouldn't be until 2008 we would get Far Cry 2, Ubisoft Montreal's first stab at the Far Cry formula that not quite solidified, but it was like the rough workings of the framework that they would go on to do the third game. Bit of a split down the middle from people, Far Cry 2. I personally love the setting and the sort of like seriousness and grittiness of it, but I also understand the whole sort of survival element with your guns jamming and they fall apart, that sort of thing. And but I like that element of the game, and I understand why people don't. And Ubisoft took the criticism of like the more sort of like, how would you call it, inaccessible gameplay to heart, and they made Far Cry 3 more streamlined in that regard. So Far Cry 2 pretty good, pretty straight face compared to the other games. Not to say the other games didn't play it straight face, but there wasn't the sort of zaniness and chaotic nature of the later ones in the second one, because the second one was very serious, set in a fictional region of Africa with a civil war going on. So kind of like what was going on at the time in the world. How they got away with it, I don't know how. But yeah, Far Cry 3 came along and they basically came out in interviews at the time saying like, oh yeah, we've got rid of all the degradation with the weapons, that sort of thing. It's more of a sandbox as opposed to it being a survival game, because the second one was kind of like a survival game, whereas Far Cry 3 is more of a chaotic sandbox, which in lines with the narrative of the main character, which I'll get into later with the story part of the game. Far Cry 3 was well received at the time it came out. People still talk about it today. I'm talking about it right now, for goodness sakes. But yeah, I just think there's a reason why people still talk about this game, because it's still a classic. And if you've never played it, if you've somehow not played it, I do recommend you go back and play it if you want to see the sort of origins of like the Ubisoft sandbox, which yeah, even like what we're like 14 years removed from it now, me recording this in 2026. That's crazy to think, by the way, 14 years since Far Cry 3 came out. But enough of like background, that sort of thing, me waffling. Let's get into the narrative, shall we? The story of Far Cry 3 starts off with a montage of a holiday video from Jason Brody and his friends, showing all the activities that any trust fund kid would do. Like they spend God knows how much money on booze, extracurricular activities, extreme sports, and that sort of thing. Them being sort of like egotistical, like, oh, look at me, I'm the big I am, even though they're using their parents' credit cards. They come across as extremely unlikable, but that's intentional with the narrative, especially with Jason Brody, because Jason Brody is a trust fund kid. He's not particularly likable to begin with. He's a bit of a wimp, and to put it in the most profane manner a British person can say is that he's a bit of a twat. But he's then captured by Vass and his pirates, and you wake up in a cage with your brother Grant at the start of the game, and we are introduced to Vass, who is just amazing. And I'll play a clip right now.
Huh? Well, I hope your mama and your papa really, really love you, because you two white boys, you look very expensive. And that's good, because I like expensive things. I'm sorry, what did you say? What did you say? Do you want me to slice you open like I did your friend? Shut the fuck up! Okay? I'm the one with the fucking dick. Look at me. Look me in the fucking eye. Hey! You fuck! Look me in the eye!
So Vass is just absolutely nuts, psychotic. But at the same time, you see a glimpse of that it's not purely because of him. You get a bit of a glimpse of Hoyt at the start of the game, where he tells him to leave him alone, and he's just like, okay, I'll leave him alone. But Jason breaks out with his brother Grant. Unfortunately, his brother Grant is killed at the start of the game, and Jason kills someone for the first time, stabs him in the neck, and he's shaking. He's shaking. That's basically the arc of this game's story. Everyone goes on about Vass, the villains in Far Cry 3 specifically, but it's the character arc of Jason Brody that's more interesting, because this game goes into the circle of violence and how Jason starts off not knowing what the hell he's doing with like a knife or a gun, to him becoming a hardened warrior / mercenary by the end of the game. But when you start to see this character arc slowly evolve throughout, you see Jason start to revel in the bloodlust, and that's what's interesting. And he starts pushing his friends away.
I found my place. It's here, on this island.
Jason, are you serious?
Lisa.
I am just trying to get a read on this.
For the first time, I know exactly what I want, and I'm not gonna let it slip away.
As he starts to rescue them, he starts pushing his girlfriend Lisa away. She's like, how can you be enjoying all of this? And he said, oh, I'm doing what I have to do to get us all out of here. That's his justification for all the violence that he causes, is because that's what he has to do to get them off the island. And to a certain extent, he's right. But at the same time, he's enjoying it a little bit too much. And it's great. And you see Jason turn into this complete inexperienced idiot to a man who can take down an entire compound in like 10 minutes, depending how you play, of course. But yeah, it's it's very well written. The character arcs are very well done. Vass's character, where it's kind of like you're both sides of the same coin with you and Vass, because Vass is basically who you basically become, this violent psychopath throughout the story, and his character is kind of like cut short halfway through to focus on Hoyt. I feel like it kind of drags on in the second half, but by the end of it, Jason just throws it all the way. He goes, enough of the violence. I've done too much by the end of the story, and he kind of rejects the island, as it were.
With them gone, you never have to leave.
This violence is over. I'm done. No more blood.
As his new personality is the island of him being this violent man, and he rejects it at the end of the game, depending what ending you choose, of course. But that also complements the gameplay with his upgrades with the tattoo, which is organic on his arm. When you upgrade, that you get new tattoos on your arms, and I really like that as a sort of gameplay mechanic, which we'll get into a bit. But also, when you start off, you don't have basic things that you'd think you'd have in a shooter, like being able to slide, being able to do certain things like takedowns. You have to unlock all of that, which all of that stuff in later Far Cry games is already at your disposal. Whereas in Far Cry 3, you have to unlock the takedown, you have to unlock the slide, you have to unlock the chain takedown. All of these elements you have to unlock through skill points. And as for Jason's character, it makes sense because he's not this experienced mercenary or warrior. It's about him evolving his skills throughout the story, and the gameplay kind of complements that evolution of his skills and combat finesse, I suppose, and it works really well. But yeah, the story overall is really good. All the voice acting is very good. The performances, Michael Mando playing Vass still holds up today. He's still incredibly frightening as that character. Even Hoyt, as over the top and cartoonishly evil as he is, as I said, he dances around to classical music as he blows things up, saying like, "Oh, I love Flight of the Valkyries. The European version's better because the brass section's better," that sort of thing.
Recordings. The brass sections in American orchestras are too bombastic.
It's that sort of characterization that he's like, yeah, he's over the top villain that you see in a sort of like old school like comic book from like Marvel 60s era, but it works. And Hoyt is quite threatening in his own right, and you also come across different side characters that are completely bonkers, like Buck, the crazy Australian you have to do like a few jobs for. He's nuts.
Monumental testament to irony. The bloody chaps, right? They form a special unit of to try and find like lost treasure and riches to feed their empire. But the wankers don't realise that this is building the bloody thing right over the fucking stuff they're looking for. Well, come on, ask me, what are they looking for, Buck?
No.
I should cane you for that. I really should. But you know what, I won't. I'll cane Keith instead. Thereafter...
But yeah, all the characters are well written. The main characters, should I say, the NPCs on the other hand, are not well written. They've got terrible dialogue, although the pirates' dialogue will always make me laugh of how stupid they sound sometimes, because it's just like they obviously got people off the street to do the NPCs. But yeah, the narrative, great. And let's get into the gameplay. So gameplay-wise for Far Cry 3, the shift was, I wouldn't say monumental, but it was a different leap compared to Far Cry 2, where Ubisoft took elements from their other franchises, more specifically Assassin's Creed, where it's an open world in Assassin's Creed fashion, where you've got towers scattered about around the map, where they basically function as Far Cry 3's viewpoints, like in AC1, 2, and I think 3 came out that year when this game came out too. And yeah, it works well because the open world in this game, it's not overwhelmingly big like later Ubisoft games would be, even as Far Cry 6, which got a bit too big in my opinion. But it's still quite condensed compared to their modern iterations of the series, and this feels organic. The main thing I would say with Far Cry's open worlds is that it's not necessarily the human enemies you got to watch out for, it's the animal enemies. And there's a big emphasis on hunting in this game. There was kind of a big emphasis on hunting in their games throughout this year, actually, with AC3 was another one as well to craft certain materials. And Far Cry 3, I don't mind it because it's gameplay orientated. It contributes to your upgrades. So like hunting animal skins will give you like, say, like better weapon holsters, You're able to carry more loot in your rucksack, carry more grenades, rockets, and so on and so on. It just adds a layer of like side content that feels almost necessary. Well, I'd say it is kind of necessary, especially with the weapon holsters, because you can only carry one weapon at the start of the game. That's the other thing too, because in the later games, I think from Far Cry 4, I might be wrong about that, you can carry more than one weapon at the start, whereas in Far Cry 3, you can only carry one weapon, and you have to go hunting and gather the resources to um, increase your weapon holsters. Same with healing items. You have to craft them yourself. You have to go scavenge them in the wilderness through the various plants that you find, the green plants. And it adds to that sense of survival from the second game without making it feel overwhelming and, to put it plainly, annoying. Because there's always plenty of resources scattered about. There's always plenty of plants nearby, plenty of animals, and it shows you where certain animals reside in the map, that sort of thing. And you're not like running around like an idiot back and forth trying to look for a specific animal to skin, that sort of thing. In terms of gameplay with like combat, as I said in like the story element briefly, it's all contextual. Like Jason can't like do basic things like the takedown and all that at the start, and your skill tree is represented as a tattoo on your arm, and that's updated in real time. When you get a new skill point, it will appear on your arm, and Jason will like look at his arm like this sort of thing, like, oh, I've got a new tattoo. And that's really cool actually to see it all slowly come together. It gets bigger and bigger, your sleeve tattoo, the more skills you get. And it's just it's basic stuff. You get skill points and XP for conquering outposts, killing enemies, doing main quests, that sort of thing. But there are certain skills you can only unlock if you do certain challenges. Like this could be hunting certain animals. The one I'd recommend you do as soon as you can is killing a bull shark, because then you can get the takedown that can kill heavy enemies, which I'll get into later. Which, because the heavy enemies are a pain, but as I said, I'll get into later. But seeing it update in real time is really cool. It adds a good sense of, well, progression. You see progression actually progress in real time, and you feel like you're getting stronger as the game goes along. With the towers, they unlock the map. They basically defog the map, like in Assassin's Creed. You find different like little cubby holes, like areas to explore, new side quests to find, and this also unlocks weapons for free in the gun shops, which kind of makes me think, what's the point in having money in the game? Because all you can do is buy ammo and consumables in the shops with that money, when you can buy weapons before you unlock the towers. But honestly, there's no point in doing that, because you unlock the weapons anyway for free if you go and do the towers anyway, which kind of makes it redundant. And you find consumable items like syringes throughout the world anyway, that you craft yourself in more abundance, and you're not having to spend money on it, as well as ammunition. As long as you're carrying like an assault rifle and a shotgun, or any close range weapon, even explosives, you'll pick them off of dead enemies anyway. So money kind of becomes redundant once you start doing the towers in the game. The main attraction of any Far Cry game is the outposts, and this is where the outpost started. And yeah, they're a lot of fun to do. You can do it your way, you can do it stealthily, you can do it as loud as you want. You try and start off stealthily like I do sometimes, and it goes completely wrong. I just end up mowing everyone down in the compound before they can get to the alarm. But if they do get to the alarm, they'll call in reinforcements in like various waves, depending where the outpost is. The first island, you fight Vass's pirates. In the second, you fight the privateer mercenary group, which is the PMC that is hired by Hoyt to do his various dastardly deeds. These are great. They're quite fun to do. They're quite easy to begin with Vass's pirates, because the pirates, they're not exactly well equipped. They're not well armored, that sort of thing, as you would expect with sort of like a, how would you say, roguish sort of outfit. Whereas the privateers, they're military trained, so they're more decked out in like armor, that sort of thing. And that's when they introduce the heavy enemies, and they're a pain in the ass. Because they take so many bullets. So that's, by that stage of the game, I always made sure I carried a rocket launcher on me. And if they spot me, and when I didn't have the heavy takedown, I made sure to lay down some C4, just take them down, because otherwise you dump like 3 or 4 magazines into them and they just don't go down, and it gets a bit overwhelming. But yeah, the combat is just so finely tuned in this game. At first, when I first booted this game up, because it's been years since I've played it properly all the way through, since I want to say 2012, 2013, took me a while to get used to, because say what you want about modern Far Cry games, but they control really, really well. And yeah, Far Cry 3 still controls really well, especially since they've updated it on PS5 to run at 60 frames per second. And shooting feels great. The takedowns when you unlock them feel great. Just the stealth elements, they're not particularly deep or well thought out, but they work, and that's fine. You hide in long grass, they can't see you. As long as you crouch, they have trouble seeing you in general. And you can also just throw rocks to distract them, which is just such a typical Far Cry thing to do now, but that was where it was introduced. The distraction of throwing rocks was in 3. And yeah, just the combat in general, it all just feels so good. It melds together. The main quests, they're really good. They're quite good. They have different scenarios, but they're quite linear, of course. Like with most open world games, when you have like main missions, they tend to be quite linear, bombastic, because it serves the narrative as opposed to sort of mechanics melding into the open world, as it were. Similar problem that Rockstar has with Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead these days. But yeah, it all just comes together as this well-made gameplay package, and it's just fantastic. And it gets so addictive doing outpost after outpost. You kind of just ignore like the main story entirely, and you just get in this sort of rhythm of doing outpost, outpost, then tower, outpost, outpost, tower, that sort of thing. And yeah, and the GPS, it's not like too in your face either. Like this was at a point when Ubisoft with the UI wasn't too like how should I put it, icons all over your screen, messy and jumbled. It's quite simple. You got mini map in the corner, ammo count in the corner, objective up here somewhere, and that's about it really. It's not too overwhelming, and it's quite nice compared to like modern games that they've made, like with even Far Cry 6. It's just like, for God's sakes, turn it off. But yeah, the gameplay is just fantastic, and I'll be getting into like presentation and sort of like performances next from the various characters. So I think the standout with Far Cry 3 are the performances, and I think this is one of like the earliest examples of games using full body performances. And what do I mean by full body performances? Basically, what they would do, they would hook them up to microphones and motion capture, so they could get both the voice acting and the performance at the same time. So basically, the actors were, well, doing their job. They were acting. They weren't just sat in a booth talking into a microphone, trying to evoke the emotions that they think the emotions are doing. Where they, with the full body performances, they're actually doing it. That's why Vaas and even all the other main characters' performances are so well done and so well performed. Not only just the full body performances, just the writing in general in this game is just well done. Vaas in general, he has his iconic definition of insanity speech.
Thinking this time is going to be different. No, please. This time is going to be different. I'm sorry. I don't like the way you are looking at me. Okay? You have a fucking problem in your head. Do you think I'm bullshitting you? Do you think I'm lying? Fuck you! Okay? Fuck you! It's okay, man. I'm gonna chill, man. I'm gonna chill. The thing is, alright? The thing is, I killed you once already. And it's not like I am fucking crazy. It's okay. It's like water under the bridge. Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
To this day, that speech still makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It's just Michael Mando, just a brilliant actor. He's just fantastic, and he embodied the sort of psychotic pirate, slave trader, human trafficker so well in this game. And as I said about Hoyt, he's just completely over the top, psychotic, kills people in over the top ways.
That wonderful, wonderful man. The company was God. I bring that same reverence to my humble business here. And I expect all of you to do the same. Now, there are only 3 company rules you have to follow. First,
Why'd I make that bet?
protect my product.
And the one character I haven't even mentioned that you meet on the second island, the privateers, Sam, the privateer. He's just a stereotypical German that you meet, completely over the top, and just like I don't have any footage to come with that, but if you've played it, you know what I mean. And it's just all the characters are just so good. And in general, with the visuals for a 2012 game, I know I'm playing this on the PS4 version, which has been up-res for the PS5, but I feel like the overall art style has not been changed at all, really. The art style, considering it was going for sort of like realistic, I think it still holds up pretty well. The character models still look pretty good if you ignore the NPCs and the cutscenes. Like the main characters look great still. I think what helps this game at the time when it came out, it was bright, it was vibrant. This was during the era where we got the browns, the yellows, the piss filter, as people have coined it on here recently. This was during the piss filter era, with gaming graphics, where you had the Gears of War, you had Fallouts, and they all had this sort of yellow tinge, greeny tinge to sort of like complement the post-apocalypse. But we're on a tropical island here, so everything's bright, everything's colourful. You've got the blue oceans, you've got the green jungles, you've got all the different plants with the vibrant hues of reds, greens, blues. It all just pops, especially in this PS4 version I'm playing on PS5 with the 4K up-res and the 60 FPS. It just pops on this 4K display. It all just looks wonderful, and it kind of contrasts with the dark and gritty violence of the game too, which I thought was a nice touch. And just in general, like the ambient music's great, because there's not a lot of music in this game. You have like the iconic main theme for the game, but a lot of the music in this game is just ambience. There's not really a soundtrack to speak of in this game, which kind of a shame really. But overall, presentation's great. The guns look great. The reload animations are great. The only thing I will mention in this PS4 version of Far Cry is that there's an audio bug with certain guns. So like the AK and various assault rifles and automatic weapons, they all have the same sort of audio clip when you fire them. And apparently this isn't present on the Xbox One version for some reason, but this is a bug specific to the PS4 version, and they still haven't fixed it, even with this update they've done for the PS5. And I just find it quite baffling, to say the least. But overall, Far Cry, brilliant game. What else can I possibly say about this game? I mean, I feel like I've talked so much about it already. I could probably go on for another 2 to 3 hours talking about this game. It's just so iconic. It was back when Ubisoft wasn't chasing trends. They weren't chasing monetary traps to try and shake your money out of your pockets all the time. They weren't making things a grind. You could do this game at your own pace, and you could just take it in. And it wasn't a checklist of things to do in this game either. That was the thing. I just wish they would go back to this formula with the Far Cry series. And we haven't had a Far Cry at the time of recording since 2021, so 5 years. Far Cry 6 came out. But I would love for them to just kind of go back to the drawing board of the series and just kind of go back what made Far Cry, well, Far Cry, to be honest. And yeah, that's all I've got to say. I hope you've enjoyed my nattering on about Far Cry 3 for a bit, for 20 to 30 minutes. As always, thank you very much for watching. At the time of recording this, I've hit 200 subs, and that is a big thank you from me. Been great doing this, talking about games. I know I keep doing this at the ends of videos, but great doing these sort of long form content, talking about games I love, especially games from the past that I grew up with as a teenager. Like Far Cry 3, I was 19 when it came out originally, and it was part of the generation that I loved dearly, and that's the Xbox 360. It's a generation I adore, and I just love being able to talk about these older 360 titles with you. And obviously I'm going to talk about newer games too at some point. I'm thinking about doing Ghost of Yotei, but that's a different subject for a different time. But talk about older games, the games that I'm so passionate about from my past. I've just been loving it, and I've loved the feedback too, because a lot of you have been like, oh, this game's amazing, especially specifically with my Call of Juarez Bound in Blood video. Such an underrated gem. And well, Far Cry 3 is not an underrated gem. I think everyone knows. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I've been nattering in your ear for long enough. Leave a like, comment, and if you want to see more of me, if you want to hear me natter on some more about some games, up to you. Click the subscribe button. I'll see you later. Bye.